Hello and welcome to my video on the parametric EQ and how parametric EQ works, like what is part of parametric EQ and how does it work. So here we've got the parametric EQ, some basic parameters like basic usage functions or ways of using the parametric EQ can be gain, frequency and Q control. On the likes of an analog desk, you will have, say, gain control, and you might have like the likes of, you could either like boost or cut that frequency. Certainly in the lower frequencies, on the lower frequencies you can either sort of boost or cut. You've got no real control over like the likes of the Q, which is like the shape of, so you've got no real control over like the Q, which is just at the top. Like the Q is, I think, the width or like sort of how it, let me just show you how you can control like whether it cuts quite narrow or whether it like makes a wider cut. So later on I'll show you how I can make a really narrow cut, and that can be really useful for cutting out frequencies that are maybe problematic within, like, say, a vocal, for example. The frequency ranges from, say, 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. As you can see in the diagram, there is like a low end bump around 80 hertz, which has got a wide, like a width. The width of the Q is really wide, and it's like a bell shape, and it's 12 dB plus gained up. It's like gained at like nearly the maximum amount of gain that you can give, you know, just to show and exaggerate and show you a low end like bump in the frequency spectrum on an analog console, and you don't have any control over where that bump is going to be. It just is at one set frequency. Next up, I'll show you a cut of the low end frequencies. So this is a boost, and I'll show you a cut. So as you can see here, you've got this like low end cut. I think it's same again, around minus 12 dB cut. The Q on the width, you've got no control over that on an analog desk, but on a digital desk you have control over the Q, and you could change the shape of the bell. It's cut at 80 hertz on an analog console. Is literally cut or boost, and that's all the control you have. And you can see the flag in the middle. The flag in the middle is representing the frequency sweep and what frequency you select. So say if you selected 100 hertz, then you could see the flag moving up or down within the frequency spectrum to show that you are on that frequency. Here's a boost of the low frequency range at plus 6 dB gain, which is just slightly less of a bump. It's like it's not as risen as high. And 85 hertz wouldn't be possible on an analog desk, but on a digital desk you could move the likes of the frequency sweep, so you could sweep through the frequencies, and the frequency sweeps have different colors representing the different parts of the spectrum to try and make it a bit easier when you've got multiple flags within your frequency spectrum. Here you can see a higher frequency cut. Put this one at 12 kilohertz. On an analog desk it will be a set frequency. I'm not quite sure what that frequency is, but it will be in the higher frequency range, and you will have this bell shape, so it will cut the majority of the higher frequencies, and you can either cut or boost. You've got no control over what frequency it cuts at, just a set frequency. And this is a minus 12 dB cut. Here's an example of bringing the Q in like a tight Q, which could be used for problem frequencies within a room, or maybe you've got a vocal that's really like sharp at one particular frequency, maybe like 250 hertz in this example. It's quite a bad example actually. Maybe it could be like around like 1.5 kilohertz, let's say. You probably at 250 hertz you might have like a wider Q width, but for a tight Q you might have like say around 1 kilohertz 2k, depending on, just listen to the vocal and maybe boost it up a little bit, have a listen, always use your ears, and cut. You can make a sharp cut so that it doesn't affect most of the frequency spectrum, because you don't want to be making like huge dips within like the intelligibility range, for example, between 2 and 4k. You want to be making like short, narrow cuts to enable more clarity within the vocal, especially within the vocal.